Hey there, my name's Danny Liebrandt, and I'm the founder of Pest Control SEO, where we grow pest control companies with SEO. Today I'm with Lenny Gray, who's one of the top figures in the pest control space. Oh my God, does this guy have so many accolades? So he's been running Rove Pest Control for over 20 years, super successful pest control company. He launched his first book, Door to Door Millionaire, in 2012, so over 10 years ago, and has been doing coaching ever since. And, he started out mainly coaching pest control companies. He just told me he has done coaching for over 33 different verticals in home services. So just about everything. Regardless if you're a pest control company owner, home service guy, he basically knows it all. And, also released his second book, More Door to Door Millionaire, which most people don't know about. So we can dive into that as well. And he's a coach for a mastermind group, really everything pest control. So this is, I'd say, one of the top guys in the space. I've seen Lenny everywhere. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Lenny.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Danny. I'm excited about this one.
Of course. Yeah. So tell me how you first got into pest control. So I mean, you started Rove 20 years ago, but what happened before that? How did you get into pest control?
Yeah, so I was recruited by a high school buddy of mine to go out and knock doors for Orkin Pest Control.
Mm,
And in fact, the first year he told me, this you can make 20 grand, go sell pest control door to door. I'd never heard of pest control. Even if I had, my family couldn't have afforded it anyway, growing up. So it was kind of one of those things where I was like, I trust this guy, but I was interested in a lady as well, so I was like, I'm going to focus on other things this summer. But if it's legit, if you actually get paid, why don't you let me know, and maybe I'll
mm.
think about it the next year. And sure enough, like right after the summer ended, like first part of September, he called me and he's like, dude, I made great money, 30 grand. I'm
Wow.
going to be running a team in Alabama next year. You've got to come out here with me. And so, yeah, so I'd gotten married in the meantime. And so, yeah, my wife and I, we drove out to Birmingham, Alabama back in 1998 to go sell pest control accounts for Orkin Pest Control. I was the rookie of the year, sold about 500 accounts, made about 50 grand my first year, and man, that's that the rest is history, but that's how I got started.
Interesting. Okay, so you're rookie of the year. How do you do that? Are you like a sales natural, or how did that come about?
So I mean, I served a 2-year church mission like a lot of door-to-door guys do,
Mm,
guys and gals do. I mean, that's really all we did. I was in Washington D.C. for 2 years, and literally 7 hours a day for 8+ hours a day,
wow.
or 7 hours a week, 8+ hours a day. That's all we did was knock doors.
Mm.
And so, uh, you know, selling religion, so to speak, is a lot different than pest control. So that was different. But at the same time, I'd never sold anything. I'd never had a sales job. So I don't know if I was a natural. I mean, going in, just like anything, my main goal was just to outwork everybody. I mean, I was in an office with some top performers in the company, experienced reps, and I didn't have my pick of the litter as far as area or who I was knocking with, but I just figured, you know what, if I just go out and work harder than anybody else, like good things will probably happen. So I wasn't even the top rep in my office because a couple of the experienced guys were over me, but as far as rookies in the company nationwide, I ended up top that summer. So that was pretty special.
Wow. So I think I saw you were at Orkin, 4 or 5 years. What happened after that?
So I sold for 3 summers while I was finishing my undergrad, and then I got hired on to Orkin's, that basically their marketing company that did their door to door. I got hired on by them full time to write all their sales training manuals, all the videos.
Dang.
I did all of that for them. In the meantime, as I was doing that, I was also traveling and training teams across the nation. And I'd met a guy who was running an Orkin franchise down in Albuquerque. And he and I kind of hit it off. And I really liked the vibe with him as far as he knew the operational side and how to kill bugs, which I didn't know. I just knew how to sell it. And so we kind of hit it off and had some personal things happen with family. We had our firstborn, he had some issues, and I was traveling so much. I just said I'm done traveling. So I approached him and said, "What do you think about starting a pest control company in Utah?" So we did that in 2003. We kind of launched it. We were actually we weren't Rove Pest Control at that point. We were Mountain West Pest Control. But then as we started to branch out, we opened offices in Oklahoma and Minnesota and Arkansas, Tennessee, and a lot of those places there wasn't a lot of mountains. So instead of going with the Mountain West Pest Control thing, we DBA'd as Rove Pest Control, and we ended up selling the Utah operation after 5 years. we were the largest residential pest control company in the state after 5 short years. We just exploded. And a lot of it obviously had to do with door to door, certainly.
Mm.
But yeah, after we'd sold our operation in Utah, it was just Rove Pest Control moving forward.
Interesting. And okay, so you wrote almost like the sales training, or at least the door to door training. What was it for Orkin? What did that look like? And first off, like, did they approach you and they're like, dude, you are crushing it. Like, you got to do this for us. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, after knocking for him for 3 summers, it wasn't just about the volume I was selling, but the quality and the way I
Mm.
was selling that was really intriguing to them. So, for instance, my last year selling on the doors, I sold 674 accounts in Jacksonville, Florida, and I got paid after all the back ends went out. I got paid for 668 of them. So I had 6 people cancel, and out of almost 700 sales, and I will say those 6 people probably either moved or died. So kind of out of my control, but you never know. But yeah. So I mean, I just had a history not just of being able to sell a lot, but sell really well. And so yeah, they approached me actually after that summer before I graduated and said, hey, if you don't have a full-time job or you're not, what are you doing after school? And I was going to school as a broadcast communications major, so I was going to be on TV. I was a news
Interesting.
anchor. Yeah, at my college, I was a nightly news anchor. But the thing I found out is that I was getting job offers in Billings, Montana, and Tri Cities, Washington, and I was going to make 30 grand working all year, weekends, holidays, and everything else. And I was like, I'm making more than that in 4 months just knocking doors
Wow.
selling pest control. So I took the pest control route instead of the TV route.
Interesting. And just tell me exactly like what makes your door knocking process so special, and like what is everyone getting wrong about it?
So, when I got in there, I mean, I was given a manual that was like 10 pages long. And
Mm.
and I started knocking doors and I had the thing memorized my first week, and I was learning there's a lot more to pest control than door to door pest control sales than these 10 pages were offering.
Mm.
And so as I just started knocking, I'm kind of a very process oriented, like my brain just works with steps and processes and how to
Mm.
replicate things. And so when I started doing my thing, I was like, I actually developed a process that anybody could do. Like, I don't think I'm like this natural born seller that sometimes you look at, YouTube videos and somebody you're like, I could never do what he or
Yeah,
she
yeah.
does. They're just like one in a million. And I'm like, that's
Hmm.
not me. I'm just a normal, ordinary guy, but
Mm.
I have a system that is ethical. And that's what's super important to me as well. Because door to door it still has a bad rap. Here I am
Yeah,
27 years
always.
later in the industry, and people still have this bad, taste in their mouth about door to door. And it's because a lot of people have figured that if I lie, cheat, and steal, I can be successful, and I'm just not a
Mm.
fan of that at all. So that's why I was very open about writing books about it. I do a lot of podcasts and conferences, and I talk to people about how to ethically sell people, not just door to door, but my process and my system. I call it my sales flow. My sales flow can be taught to inbound reps, or if you got B2B reps, you got commercial reps going out. I mean, it's a process that can be replicated, not just in the pest control industry, as you said before, but in any kind of direct sales environment.
Yeah. I'm curious, this is like kind of a niche question, but when you're knocking doors, what is your tonality? Like, is it friendly? Is it because it can't be salesy, right? You don't come off as a salesy guy to me. What is it?
Yeah. So, in fact, in my first book, in Door to Door Millionaire, I talk about this. The ultimate compliment is what it's called. And the ultimate
Mm.
compliment in door to door sales is when you're wrapping up a sale and somebody says, I'm sure glad you weren't one of those door to door guys that came knocked on my door. And to
Ah,
me, it's like, I win, because that is
yeah.
exactly how I want to come across, is not one of
Mm.
those guys. And so, again, it's a very conversational. I don't close hard. I use a lot of different variations in pitch, tonality, metaverbal stuff. My nonverbal communication, not just what I do, but how I can read other people. Like all this stuff that I've learned on tens of thousands of hours. They say you become an expert at 10,000 hours. It's like I've probably done 30,000 hours of knocking doors, because I haven't stopped. That's the thing. I was 2 weeks ago. I was out knocking doors for a company in Florida.
Wow.
I still knock doors with all my reps, in the summer for Rove. So again, it's not that it's passed me by or I just did a bunch of things 20 years ago. Like, I'm still very relevant in this industry, and I'm still learning and getting better and fine tuning the way that my system works, which is pretty cool considering, the number of sales that I've made over the years.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. I love that you're still in the game and still like actually showing that you can do it. I mean, you've been doing it for what, almost, 30, 40 years at this point. And
I'm
you're
not
still in
I'm
the
not
game.
40 years old yet. I'm 40 years in, Danny. But
I
but
thought you
yeah, no,
said
I've been doing it for such a long
since
time.
88?
No,
Did I hear?
98, 98,
Oh,
98.
okay, okay, okay.
Woo!
My bad.
I'm old, but not that
No,
old.
I was gonna say you look young. Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, that is okay. So what I wanted to ask is, what would you say is would you attribute most of your learning to? Was it just knocking doors, or did you go through any courses or any books?
Repetition.
Mm,
And I'll tell you this much. So I was not a big read. I am now. I listen to an audio book a week and a half, every week and a half to 2 weeks. I'm listening to an audio book. I don't do a lot of
mm,
reading. I love to listen
mm.
to books more than I read, especially if authors self narrate their books. I just think that's special. That's what I did with my books, which you get to hear that tonality, right? Like in fact, I interviewed a few professional voices to do my Audible book, and the funny thing was, this one guy had this great English accent. And I was like, you have him read a portion of your book, and it's like they just don't get it. They don't speak the
Yeah.
language. It's
Hmm.
like there's a different language in sales that only I could do. That it was my terminology. It was my system.
Mm.
So yeah. So I'm a big fan of not just repetition. That's super important, but also it's a process of learning how people respond to different things you say and do. And it was like my brain is just like a filing cabinet, and everything just kind of went in, and I looked for trends, and now, like I said, I've got an answer for everything on the doors. And that doesn't mean I sell everybody either. That's the best part, is sometimes I learn the most from people I don't sell, and that's what I have to teach reps, right? Like, it's okay. Like, I was knocking doors just this last summer in Michigan for my company. And, crazy enough, but I sold three of the first four people I talked to. So yes, I still got it. As I'm watching these reps go through this with people, I'm just seeing where they're just making just little mistakes that we just needed to tweak. And sometimes that's all it takes, right? It's just a little bit of coaching. And I don't care if that's in door to door or whatever you do in your life. But if you just tweak, even the best technicians, right? The ones that have the get the most 5-star reviews, that do the best service, that are the highest ranked in your company, like, probably from the top end to the bottom end, there's not like maybe a huge gap from top to bottom, but that top tier, or the better half of your technical staff, the bottom part of that probably isn't doing much different than the top tier. You just got to find what those are. And that's why SOPs and manuals and training, that's why that's so important.
Mm. I love that. Yeah, one of my core philosophies is always be testing. So in every single little thing that I do, whether it's, outreach to prospects or, this very YouTube thumbnail, I might do a little bit something different, or a little bit something different on the title, or a little bit something on my social posts that I do. Always just making those little tweaks. Again, you kind of want to use almost like the scientific, actually, I don't know if it's a scientific method, but basically like just only changing one little variable, just like, oh, okay, people actually like that a lot more. So it seems like you've done a lot of testing over your career, and that's really what's made you successful.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's over and over. I mean, the best summer I ever had, I sold about $500,000 worth of business. And today, there's a lot of reps that do that. But if you convert that, this happened back in 2003. The conversion in 2003 is over $850,000 is what I would have
Wow.
sold, today. So again, it's selling not just volume, but selling it the right way. And that was important to me as well, because I know enough people, and still to this day, there are people that are just trained wrong. That's the
Mhm.
problem. It's almost like, if you see other people doing it and they're having success, you want to mirror that. And you're like, well, I guess I just have to. And there's good people that just fall victim of seeing, their team leads or their managers or experienced reps doing it the wrong way. So I'm passionate about that. Is I can sleep well at night knowing everything I was telling people was above board. It wasn't, I wasn't lying to people. I wasn't, throwing up some kind of false pretenses that got people thinking, that they could expect something that really wasn't there. And that's indicative of my retention. That summer when I did, $500,000, I mean, it was like 1,200 accounts. Like, it was a
Wow.
lot of pest control accounts. And again, the retention on those were great. I mean, up until, 5 years later, the good majority of those, like, I don't even know what the percentage was, but the good majority of those were still customers 5 years later.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I believe in doing everything ethically. Like, I can't get on a sales call with someone, and I made a post about this a week ago that, you know, I actually knew that I couldn't help someone, and as much as I want to, take on an extra client, if I know I can't help you, and you're a super niche service in a tiny town, I can't help you out with SEO. So I totally agree with being ethical. I mean, personally, I just can't do it. I can't really lie to people at this point. It's I don't know, but that's also how you build longevity in a business. Like, I think everyone who makes the quick bucks, they're lying, they're stealing, they're doing whatever. But everyone who actually has business longevity, and every single successful person that I've talked to that's been in the game for a long time, is doing things the right way.
Yeah, 100%. And that's part of the issue with these summer sales teams, right? The door-to-door reps that come in and they're there for a brief, month or two, or 2 or 3 months, 4 months, and then they're gone. And unless they're trained the right way, they don't really care a lot of times,
No.
because it's like I'm never going to see these people again. I'm never going to work with
Uh-huh.
these people again, or likely, and so I'll just move on, or I'll move on to another state and sell for somewhere else, and they're just not accountable to themselves, or the businesses, the companies they work for don't hold them accountable. Fortunately, I've seen a really great trend in the door-to-door pest industry, where more and more of these really large companies that are sending out hundreds, if not thousands of reps, they're actually holding reps more accountable to how they're selling, not just how many they're selling. And I think that's super important. And technology's helped in that space as well, which is awesome. And so yeah, so I think it's trending in the right direction. It might be a slow curve upwards, but at least I feel like people are more interested now than ever in doing it honestly, doing it ethically.
Definitely. And that's ultimately, again, how you actually get the most sales, and create longevity and actually build a great business. So yeah, I completely agree. And I'm glad things are trending the right way. Another thing I want to ask you is, I won't go into like your complete kind of door knocking script, but do you have like a general framework that you follow? Like, is it, when I do outreach to people, it's usually like I start with a compliment and then I'll end with, cheers, or, something like that. What is kind of the framework that you follow?
Yeah, so what I created after, years and years of doing this, and I'm still refining, but it's pretty dang solid right now.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is what it is. But I call it the sales flow, or my sales flow process. And it starts from that time the person opens the door to the
Hmm.
time you're leaving with a signed agreement. And
Mm.
really there's six main categories, and then there's several subcategories within each category. But yes, for you, like, it's somebody answers the door, what do the first 20 to 30 seconds look like? That's called
Mm.
the initial approach. And what are the most effective techniques for dealing with people? And I've got a 5-step process. It's very teachable. It's something anybody can do. But the reality of it is, the initial approach, those first 20 to 30 seconds, are no more than trying to get a conversation started with that person. That's what
Mm.
it is, especially in door to door, because we already have 2 of 3 strikes against us, right? Because we're knocking on doors where we weren't invited and they don't know us. So
Uh-huh.
we better be pretty fantastic at that initial approach. The next step is qualifying, and that's finding out who's worth my time to talk to and who's not. Because so many times reps just mindlessly talk to people that don't qualify, they don't deserve their time, and they waste a lot of time. Or conversely, they don't spend enough time with people who actually are interested. So I've reverse engineered every sell I've ever made, and there's 5 primary qualifiers that let me know if I should continue the conversation and go into the third step, which is value building. And value building is essentially, when you talk about pest control, people can have in their minds a lot of different ideas of what pest control is. They might have
Mhm.
from personal experience, watching movies, reading books, who knows. So I want to make sure they know specifically what I cover. But there's 3 different types of value builds you can do as well, and it's mostly based on time, how much time that person has. But you never want to go past 2 minutes on a value build either. People
Mm.
don't want to hear you rattle on, over and
Yeah.
over again. After your value build, then you go right into your close. And there's 3 primary closes that you can use. Once you close, generally speaking, you're going to get objections from people. There's 7 primary objections in door-to-door pest control sales. I call them the Magnificent Seven. I've got answers for all 7 of these primary concerns that you're going to get. After you resolve a concern, you close again, probably another concern, you overcome the concern, you close again. That's kind of cyclical back and forth. And then once somebody agrees to your close, then you go into solidifying the sale. And there's 13 different steps to solidifying the sale. So you're not just selling somebody who might have a high probability of cancellation, but you're selling somebody that's going to receive their initial service, and they're going to be long-term happy customers.
Okay.
That's the
Awesome.
that's the sales flow. That's the magic right there. So
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
nutshell.
No, I love how um like systems oriented you are, and that it's all based on SOPs, and like, hey, there are clearly three things that we do for this, and there's seven things if they say this. I absolutely love that. And I think that that makes it fairly easy for anyone that's coming into door knocking to follow that. So would you say that anyone who might want to be a door knocker, maybe they can just read your two books and be good to go?
I mean, that's a great place to start. I've got a lot of material and resources out there, whether it's, the YouTube channel, the D2D Millionaire YouTube channel, or my social media, anything D2D Millionaire social media. There's a lot of tools. I've got an app coming out. I've got two more books that are being written specifically for the pest control industry. Those should be released in the coming months. So it's just how you process things. Like, could somebody take my two books and develop that process for themselves? Sure. Do I have it on my website that you could go to and buy in an SOP that's a nice packaged with a bow on top, that here's the Audible, here's the PDF, and here's a training camp video to go along with it? You can just plug and play it to tomorrow. Yes, that's available too. So I've got it everywhere, just depending on how you absorb information and how much material you want. It's there. It's been created over and over, and again, it's something that it depends on the individual and the person, not just their budget, but their capacity to learn and how they learn, right? Some people are more visual, some people are audible, some people are more vocal, or they just like to read things, right? They kind of absorb information in different ways. So
Wow, that is so awesome, man. It seems like you're just a genuinely good person trying to help as many people as possible. Could you like talk more about your mission and like what you're trying to accomplish?
yeah, so I mean, I'm just I've gotten to the point. I've been really fortunate to coach up and partner with some really great companies, not just in home services, but fintech companies, and just I'm very fortunate to be in a position to where I'm never going to spend the money that that I made. I don't
Yeah.
spend a lot anyway, so that's not I'm not like trying to speak above myself or anything, but I'm just in a position to where I love the idea of giving back. That's why I'm part of this
Mm.
mastermind group. It's called Pest Empire Builder, where we're just giving back to pest control owners to say, hey, here's how we got where we're at. So I don't care if you're a startup, if you're $1 million company, a 10, a 20, it doesn't matter. Like, here's some systems that can help you get to the next level. So I just love the idea of giving back and doing these types of things, because I know when I was that new rep and I got that 10-page manual and nobody really taught me about pest
Yeah.
control or how to sell. And, I was just like, I just love the idea of people. I mean, one of the best compliments I can receive now is I'll have, reps reach out to me, attend my webinars or different things. And they'll say, man, when I started working for this pest control company, all they did was hand me your book and say, here, read this and
No.
read this and read this. And then you're going to be ready to go. And I love that. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're great books, and there's 120,000 words between the two books, where you can absorb as much information as you can take in, probably.
No, that is so cool, man. I think you're like kind of the undisputed authority on door knocking, at least in terms of the local services space. So I just think that's so cool, man, and I have a lot of respect for what you're doing.
I appreciate it. No, and like I said, it's my passion. It's what I do. I want people, our motto or our slogan at D2D Millionaire is sell more the right way. It's
Mm.
pretty
Yeah,
simple.
that's
We're
good.
going to teach you how to sell more, but you're going to do it the right way. You're going to feel good about yourself that you do it the right way. And it's not just for door knockers. That's the other thing with all this, Danny, is it's more than just knocking doors. If you're an inbound salesperson, you can still follow my sales flow process. It's
Mm.
the same. Like, the only thing we're going to take out is the knock on the door, and maybe that initial approach, we tweak it just a little bit, especially if somebody's calling you, they've already qualified. Well, now let's start a conversation with them. We already know they're qualified, so we can get into value building a little quicker. So the
Mm.
process doesn't change if you go D to D, if you go B to B, if you're doing inbound, if you're doing outbound calls, whatever it is, the process works. Like, all my employees, they're trained on this, whether it's our commercial reps, whether it's our door-to-door team, our sales team, our in-house sales team. Like, everybody knows the process. And
Mm.
that's why our company, our pest control company, even though we started, our roots are door-to-door, we don't just grow with door-to-door anymore. In fact, if we didn't have another sales rep knock on a door the rest of this year, any of next year, we'd continue to grow
Wow.
because of SEO, because of
Yeah.
marketing and advertising, because of teaching all of our people how to cross sell and cross market and Cloverleaf and all those things, and how to feel comfortable approaching people. So we kind of we kind of do a little bit of everything to grow, and that's my recommendation to companies. I don't want companies to just be door to door companies. I don't think they're as valuable because unless you got the right system retention numbers, that's what everybody always says about door to door. Retention sucks. Well, it can if you're not trained right. But the other part of that is don't just go all into one level of growth, right? It's like the arrows in the quiver analogy. Like, don't just go to
Mhm.
battle with one arrow and it's door to door and that's all you're going to use. Like, you've got to be well rounded, especially depending on what your future looks like. We've been through enough acquisition and that over the years. We've had two different acquisitions, one in '07 and one in '15, where we've sold, I think we sold what, 6 or 7 companies in that time frame. And the thing of it is, you're going to be valued higher if you're actually more well-rounded on your growth strategy. Because if you're just door to door, you're not going to get the multiple or you're not going to get the return as if your growth strategy doesn't involve many different aspects of growth, not just one thing. What? And I'm just saying, not just the one thing door to door. It could just be the one thing. All you do is mailers, or all you do is billboards. Like you've got to be
Mm,
more well rounded to really get the valuation that if you're looking to exit, that you possibly want to get.
definitely, I agree. Talk to me more about those two acquisitions and how that went. Maybe is there anything you regret, anything you do different, any advice you have for, other pest control company owners?
Yeah, I mean, this is an individual decision, right? What do you want, and who are you working with, and what do they want? Kind of, it's more personalized than just kind of a blanket. Like, this is what we did. I mean, for us, it was really, like I mentioned, in 5 years we were the largest residential company in the state, and we had no like we just were working, right. We didn't have any clue. We just knew we were putting on a lot of accounts. This was before a lot of automation, so I remember being in the office at like 4 in the morning routing everything, before all the great
Wow.
technologies helped with that. So but we just got to the point where we were approached, and people start putting valuations together and dollar signs in front of your mind. You go, wow, well, with
Mm,
that, it'd be nice to tuck some of that away, but then we could also use it to put a little gas on the fire of growth and go start all these other branches everywhere else. So that was more, it was just my business partner and I were the only owners that first go around in Salt Lake. So it was more for us to, again, put a little capital away and then also and invest in other things. We've got several other businesses that we do, vacation rentals and land development and different things. But yeah, it was just a way for us to kind of take the next steps as individuals and just business minded people, and it helped us to grow these other companies faster. So yeah, it's more of a, I think, acquisition, and if you're interested in those kind of things, I think it's just more of a personal decision. What are you going to do? I mean, there's only so many things you can do with a business, right? You can, it can be a legacy business you can pass on to family or friends. You can sell it, or you can have no strategy and you just keep it and you die and you hope it ends up in the right hands, which I probably
uh-huh.
would not encourage that last one.
Yeah, definitely. Well, talk to me about your other businesses. I think you said you have 7 other businesses. What are those and how are those going?
Yeah, so we've got a land development company. We got a vacation rental company. We've got obviously my coaching companies that I have. I got exclusive contracts with several different companies in different verticals. If companies are really willing to invest in a door-to-door program, I don't care if it's roofing, if it's garage doors, if it's fintech, whatever it is, then we'll actually create a company just for me to spend a lot of time with that individual company to make sure they're
Mm,
getting the personalized coaching that they need to kind of excel and succeed.
wow.
So yeah, I think with all the properties and everything we have, I don't know, we probably got about 13, 14 different things that we're doing, and so yeah, it's always fun. It's
Awesome.
always interesting.
It's
Never dull
that
moment.
serial entrepreneur mentality. It's never enough. I feel that I want to keep starting new businesses. I'm just like, nope, just gotta focus on this one thing for now, just for the next few years, and then we can expand out. So did you have trouble with that starting out? Were you trying to start several businesses, or were you kind of all in on, Rove at the time?
Yeah, no, 100%. So when we started, again, it was two of us. It was me and my business partner. And I was selling, he was spraying, and that was it. And the
Mm,
third person we hired, we were answering phones, we were doing everything else, ordering chemical. The third person we hired was a reg tech once I started selling enough to where we had the reg routes and the start routes needing to be done. And then really, I think our first 5 or 6 hires were either admin or techs, And then summer two, we hired 4 door-to-door reps, and I was still doing it part-time and managing these 4. Summer three, I backed off the doors a bit, and then we hired like a group of 20, 25 reps to go out. And so yeah, we kind of grew, and I mean that was it. Like, and I would never encourage somebody, if you're in the pest control space, just zero in on the pest control space, because
Mm.
there's so much I love pest control. I mean, I've been
Uh-huh.
through a pandemic. We've been through bubbles bursting, housing crises.
Yeah.
We've been through all of it since 2003, and it's like we're still standing strong. Like, pest is such a great industry that I don't think you have to focus on other things. Most of the time, even though we have these other entities, we're hiring people to do those for us. So we might be principals in those operations, but there are people managing those things day to day. So for me, right now, my main point of emphasis is on consulting. But our COO, our other partner, we brought a third business partner in. He's operationally just working the heck out of Rove Pest Control and making sure everything works. And then my other business partner, the original business partner, he's CFO, so he's managing, budgets and finances for all of our companies, all across the
Cool.
board. So.
Yeah. Another question I had for you is, so you guys had that kind of initial spree of hiring like the 20 reps, and I'm sure you've hired and helped other people hire, thousands of reps, maybe tens of thousands. What advice do you have to, pest control company owners or local business owners on hiring reps and, door-to-door guys to get it done?
I just go to your network. Like, the worst thing that I hear is when business owners come to me and they say, okay, I want to hit up a company in Utah or Idaho, and I want to sub them out and pay them to hire a team for me. And I think that is the absolute wrong way to start if you're looking to dip your toe into door to door. And 3 reasons why. Number one, the cost. It's crazy right now what the going rate is to hire a door to door team out. Number two, the quality of accounts you're going to get. I mean, if you think about it, these reps have nothing, they rarely know you, they barely get to know you.
Mm.
And so now all of a sudden, you're trying to be friends with them, but they're out working and they don't know you. They're not bought into you or your culture or your company. And so the third part of that is you're just going to have horrible retention. And so you're going to pay a lot for not great accounts is really what it boils down to. So I'd rather teach business owners how to do door to door yourself. And it doesn't take a lot. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of it is just networking, within your personal or your professional network, or a church group, or something to
Mm.
find
Yeah.
this demographic of, your late teens to late 20s who are ambitious and competitive, and just find people who are willing to knock doors. Because that, to me, this is why I'm so passionate about sales training, is most people, they put in so much time into recruiting and hiring, and they kill themselves just doing those things, and they get a room full of reps and their sales training is horrible, or
Mm.
they give them a 10-page manual, and then it's like they're not going to stick around, they're not going to be happy, they're not going to tell their friends, and then you got to start recruiting from ground zero the next year all over again.
Mm.
And so if you have the right sales training in place, now you bring these people in, they have a good experience, that's going to accelerate your recruiting. That's going to strengthen your recruiting, because now they're telling their buddies and their friends that, oh my gosh, this company's great. I got trained great. I had a great experience. I'm making good money. Then recruiting kind of does itself. It's
Mm.
not something you have to put a lot of time into. So rather than thinking of it as, I just got to be a really good recruiter and hirer, I'd say let's get a system for training these reps so I know anybody I bring in is going to be super successful. So think about it like, I'm to the age now. Yeah, I have kids in their 20s now. And it's like, I look at it and say, if I'm hiring my kids right now, am I going to set them up for success with great training? And
Mhm.
if my company, if I'm a business owner and I'm saying I don't have that yet, then you should not be recruiting, especially for door to door.
Definitely. That was amazing advice. Anyone who wants to hire door-to-door people, that's the answer. That's the answer. So absolutely love it. And I kind of just want to get an understanding and really for pest control owners, of what should kind of be the logical sequence of them going from a solo operator to then starting to build out a team. So when would you say is the time to start hiring reps and other people on your team? 10K a month, 20K a month? How long should they just be solo?
So the first thing that's going to be dependent on is, as you as a business owner, what are your strengths? What do you enjoy doing? Why did you
Mm.
start a pest control company? Is because you're really good with people, with customers. Maybe you're really good at identifying pest issues, And, maybe your strength is, operationally, you're really good. You're very organized. You can set things up well. Maybe you're really good at sales. And the one thing you need to do is hire around your weaknesses, right?
That's so
Like,
good.
because if you're really good at sales, like I had this happen to me when I was, with Orkin. I had several people approaching me before I partnered up and we started our own company, but I had several people approach me and say, dude, we should start a company together. Let's do pest control. And the problem was these guys were all sales guys. And I was like,
Yeah.
why in the world would I want to partner with you when we bring the same thing to the table? And I've
Uh-huh.
seen so many business partnerships of these guys. We all started with Orkin. We had several hundred, reps going out knocking, and these guys all started companies. A lot of them partnered up, and they were both sales guys, and they're no longer business partners. I've literally
Mm.
been business partners with the same guy since 2003.
Wow.
And it's because he didn't want anything to do with selling. I didn't want to have anything to do with spraying. And
Mm.
so we just complemented each other. So if you're really good at sales and selling's your thing, then hire the technical people around you so you can go do what you are really good at. If you
Mm.
don't want anything to do with sales, your first hire, I don't care when, it should be right away. And you door to door is like 100% commission. So that's what I've always
Yeah.
been used to. So it's like you got to pay to play. So it's like I got to go sell. So you go hire the best sales rep you can get. And if you don't want anything to do with sales, because you're not going to grow otherwise. And so I
Mm.
think the first question to back up that, that a little bit, Danny, is where are your strengths? What are you really good at? What can you do to benefit your business the most? And then hire outside of that.
Cool. Yeah, no, I was really actually planning on asking how do you find a great partner as well, but that's the answer as well, is that you need someone that balances you out. But would you recommend that people like pest control owners have a co-founder? Do you need a co-founder? What do you think?
No, no, absolutely not. I think it depends on you too and what your goals are, right? I
Mm.
mean, the way it was explained to me when I was determining whether or not to start my own company, I mean, I knew I needed a business partner because I'm
Mm.
like, I didn't even like to manage sales reps when I was
Yeah,
first
yeah.
talking. I was like, just let me go do what I'm really good at. Let me
Hmm.
just focus on going selling pest control accounts. I don't really want to get in the minutia of managing people. And again, I got really good at that later in my career. But I think for a lot of people, you kind of have to look at what your skills and talents are. I've got a lot of buddies in the industry still that started way back in the day when I did, and they're the solo, CEO and CFO and COO, and they're kind of their C-suite, and they get big enough and they start hiring those positions out, but they're probably just a lot more capable than me. And
Mm.
so I was kind of just focused and singular focused, and I felt like if I brought a business partner along with me, I'd get to where I wanted to go faster.
Okay, cool. I've got another like a kind of niche question for you. So you've done a lot of coaching for various local businesses and I mean particularly home service and more particularly pest control. I want to know, is there a certain point where companies plateau, and if so, why and how can they fix that?
Oh yeah, and I think not even just plateauing, but taking steps back, and
Mm.
a lot of it has to do with the ownership. As you as an owner, you kind of get to a certain point. Like everybody has, whether it's a number or a number of responsibilities or number of
Hmm.
employees, we all kind of have these thresholds we
Yeah.
hit. And so you kind of have to decide what you want to do. I mean, that's our second acquisition in 2015. That's what it was. We had a lot of our partners that were running these branches. They were more or less the branch managers in these locations. They were just happy making six figures. And it's
Mm.
like, we don't need to push growth.
Yeah.
We're good. Like we hit where we wanted to get and now we're good.
Hmm.
And that's just not, we didn't share that same vision with a lot of them. So that's why we had that acquisition in 2015. But at the same time, if you have people that are always growth minded and want to push, 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 and you're the owner and you're like, dude, I'm good. I'm making what I want to make. Like maybe you gotta look at it that way as well. So again, with anything in business, there's a lot of answers that are it depends. It depends on you. And so I think the moral of the story with that is what do you want? And that can change, right? And I'm not one of these guys that has a vision board for what 20 years looks like, or anything like that. I've never done
Mhm.
like bought into that, but I want to know what the next 12 months look like, maybe the next
Mhm.
18 months.
Yeah.
And if I can get to where I go there, then I'm going to reevaluate and say, okay, here I'm sitting now at 18 months where I wanted to be 18 months ago. What do the next 12 or 18 months look like? And am I good where I'm at, or can we keep pushing a little bit more to get to that next level? So you have to ask yourself that. Don't if you're the CEO, if you're the owner of the business, you have to know and you have to have a vision for what you want, because then
Mhm.
everything else is going to be dependent on that. And now, if you're in a business partnership, obviously you and your business partner have to come to some kind of an agreement on that as well. But yeah, I'm a big fan of planning and looking more like, within a relatively close range. 12 to 18 months is really all I look out. Beyond that, I just think there's just so many variables that change. Like, rarely do you know your goals in 12 months look the same as they did 12 months ago, let alone people looking 5, 10 years. And I know there's different advice on that, and it's whatever, but I'm just more like, let's look at the immediate future, and not 20 years from now.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that advice. Personally, for me, of like goal setting and setting KPIs and all of that, usually my window is 6 months because anything longer than that, I've seen like it completely changes. So, I mean, like what came to mind for me is I started a software company a little over a year ago. And, my 5, 10 year vision was like, let's, build this to $100 million. And I had, two co-founders and then eventually four and then three, whatever. There's a whole story behind there. But the group chat, so the company name was Virality, and the group chat name was Virality 100 mil, as in like $100 million. We're gonna sell
Where
it
we're
for that.
going.
Yeah, and we're like, no matter what it takes, 5, 10, 20 years, and a year later, whatever, this March, it went bust, and we just like gave up on it because we're all doing our own thing, and we didn't have enough money for the resources. So I actually don't think it's beneficial to go like 5, 10 years. I think, like you were saying, like the 6 to 12 to 18-month window is where you can kind of still get the most ROI and see those goals come to fruition.
Yeah, and I think it'd be helpful for. I'm just going to ask you a question too, because I think it'd be helpful to know with your business partners, as far as what we talked about with having different strengths and that. I mean, what was the reason that didn't work out? In March, like, why was it disassembled?
Yeah, so there were many reasons. I think actually the main reason is that it was none of our main priorities. So that there's like the idea there totally worked and everything, and we were going at it for about a year, and so I mean it started out with me, and I was kind of more of the organic marketer, so I can do email marketing, SEO, then potentially Google Ads, also the website development, kind of that side of things. Also potentially a little bit of social media like Twitter, LinkedIn. Then we had a friend who was a developer. Then another friend who was more like operations, day-to-day stuff. So that's like a pretty good balance there. But the problem is that all of us were running our own agencies at the same time, and the idea was totally there. So I mean, I won't go too deep into it, but essentially, um, originally it was for content creators to make content with AI, which AI was like a little bit newer, I guess like 2 years ago at the time. Um, but the ultimate product became of you can like create a custom AI for yourself. So let's say you're like an influencer on Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is. It can download, transcripts of all your Instagram content or, all of your tweets on Twitter, and it can make posts just like the ones that you make, and then it can automatically schedule it out and everything. And then there's also an analytics dashboard, and you can see all of that. So part of it is that we didn't have the finances for it. I think like the big API that we wanted access to, I think it was $30,000 a month, and we were all like not making much money at the time. And yeah, all of us, it was a side project for us. And
Yeah.
then about at the beginning of this year, like January, February, March, is when big tools like SEMrush came out with a tool like that, and some other big companies came out with a tool like that. And obviously, SEMrush is probably $1 billion company, so we couldn't compete. But yeah, no, I mean, I actually have a partner for my agency now. We're not like officially partners, but the balance is that I'm like the sales and marketing guy, and he is all fulfillment. So
Yeah.
he's been in local SEO for over 12 years, and I'm the marketing guy. I love like doing this podcast here. I've been doing posts every day for the past week or so. I've got like over 20,000 followers, which is pretty good for only doing it for like a year or two. So that's my jam. I love sales. I love marketing, kind of the same as you. And I'd say I love SEO. Like I know a ton about it, but I'm not a fan of fulfilling it. So I can make courses on it, and I'm fine marketing that. But in terms of the actual fulfillment and the nitty gritty, that's not me. So I found a guy, and it's working out well.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I look at it and I go, anybody who has their own company right now and they're, maybe, if sales is their thing, like I said
Mm-hmm.
before, like my motto was with our company, we said, listen, if everything goes south for us, the one thing we know we've got is Lenny can go knock doors and generate revenue.
Uh-huh.
And,
Yeah.
and so I think you have to have that person in your company. If you're the owner, even better. But if you're not, you have to have that person in your company where you know that you can put on accounts so you can generate revenue. And that's what I love about door to door. I mean, it's just
Mm.
so, I call it the armpit of all sales, right? It's so nitty gritty, and it's like not everybody can do it or wants to do it. I mean, that's why I've developed so much training, because I'm like, if somebody's willing, I want to make them able. Like that's what
Mm.
my training does. But I just look at it and say, yeah, if the world's ending and pay per click goes 10 times
Yeah,
what it is,
yeah.
which it does, or
Mm-hmm.
the cost for advertising is just insane, like anybody that's willing can just go out and go knock on some doors and try to
Mm.
drum up some business that way. It's old school. Again, it's gritty, it's dirty, it's
Uh-huh.
in the weeds, but man, it works. And more companies are doing it. I will tell you, projections that I'm looking at show over 1 million reps by the year 2030 are going to be knocking doors selling
Wow.
different things. And so I kind of like, if you're a pest control owner, a lot of you may already deal with the summer sales teams that come in, the door-to-door guys, and they're taking your customers and you're pissed off and this, that, and the other. I mean,
Mm.
I talk about defensive strategies. I coach companies on defensive strategies for door-to-door. Or if you want to have the mentality, if you can't beat them, you join them, right? Right?
Mm.
Why not learn how to go knock doors yourself? It doesn't have to be at the scale where you're, putting on thousands or hundreds of thousands of accounts. It can literally be a few hundred accounts can make a huge difference in a pest control company if you know how to do it. And it's not rocket science. Again, it's systematized. There's a way to do it. And if you're just willing to do it, like I'll tell you, it can change, and it can change the nature of your business in terms of even route efficiency. That's what
Mm.
people love about door to door. Acquirers love about door to door companies, is because everything's contained in these small little neighborhoods, right? You could spend a whole
Yeah,
day as
yeah.
a technician and you have one route in one block. And then you're not wasting fuel, wear and tear on your vehicles and all those things. So there's some positives to door. Like I train some pest control company owners who, they don't traditionally do door to door, but I've taught them how to like capitalize on certain specific areas they want to grow, zip codes or neighborhoods they want to grow in. And it's like they can do that with some pretty simple door to door tactics. And that's what makes door to door awesome as well, is you can fill in some gaps. I mean, we've also done acquisition. We've been on the acquisition side. We haven't just sold, but we bought companies as well. And then we go in and we can take door to door teams and say, okay, in this zip code, we're a little thin. We don't have, three full routes. Maybe we've got two and a quarter. Well, we can go in and we know with 54 accounts that we sell in that zip code or in that area, we can just fill those routes right up. And so we
Mm.
deploy the door to door team. We sell our 54 accounts in that zip code. We're off to the next one. And so door to door is a magnet for efficiency as well.
Mm. Yeah, that's so awesome. And in terms of price efficiency, where is it at? I mean, you are paying like on commission. Like, would you recommend it in terms of, going against something? I mean, there's so many ways to market of commercial, SEO, Google Ads. How does it compare in terms of other ways of marketing?
So it's expensive, like I said. Now, the great thing is, unless you're in Utah and you're recruiting against everybody who knows everybody that's done door to door and is getting paid this crazy commission, like there's a way to do it very economically. I mean, we've recruited in other universities in other states, and we've gotten teams, pennies on the dollar what you're going to pay for a team that's, that's in Utah. And there's different ways. This is why I hold webinars about this. There's different types of ways to pay sales reps as well, where you can pay them as much, but you mitigate your risk if you extend it over a longer period of time, like a pay-go plan, for instance.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
rather than paying reps all up front or whatever, now you can pay them as you go. So you're guaranteed, Miss Jones is paying her bill every month, and I'm only paying my rep if Miss Jones is paying her bill. And
Mm.
so there's ways to, again, mitigate the risk of doing door to door, so you don't, you're not looking back and going, man, all my customers are gone, and now I got to pay these reps all this money and I'm in the hole. Like, why did I do that? That's just because you don't know and you haven't set it up right.
Mm. Okay, cool. Good to know. Also, I wanted to talk to you about that. What was it called? Pest Empire Builder. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it's a mastermind community. It's really for pest control owners. Again, whether you're a startup or whether you're running, 8, 9 figure business. And what it is we actually just we have different. We have phone calls, we have events, whether they're live or Zoom events, or we do just different things to get people in rooms together that can accelerate each other's place of where we are in business. Now, we're not going to,
Mm.
partner up with our 8, 9 figure businesses with our startups, right? We're going to
Yeah,
put
yeah.
you in part of our mastermind in a group that you're going to get the most value from, and you're going to get help basically handheld across the way to go from startup to how do we get to 7 figures, right? Like
Mm.
what do we need to do? What are the best practices? What are the most effective ways to get there? How have I grown, 12, 13 different companies into the 7 figure number? Well, I can tell you exactly how I did it. My COO's on there as well, Rob, and he's going to tell you and coach you exactly how we do it. So if you want to, if you're a 7 figure and you want to get to 8 figure, we're going to talk to you about that. How did we go from
Mm.
7 figure business to 8 figure business and what we did? And so yeah, it's really just a community for people that want to succeed faster. I mean,
Mm.
we're not like fixing broken companies, right? Like we're not, that's
Yeah.
not our thing. It's like if your company's broke, there may be some other ways to help you. But Pest Empire Builder is really for companies that are successful that want to take next steps to more success.
Mm. Can you break down how a pest control owner could hit that $1 million mark? And, what should they expect? Should it take 5 years? Is it going to take 10 years? What do they need to do? How much, like, is there energy? Do they have to, put 14 hours a day into this? What does it take to hit $1 million?
I think the first thing it takes is an owner who's willing to do what it takes. That's the
Mm.
first thing it takes. And that was my mentality, my business partners when we started. Like I said, I was going to go sell more accounts than I'd ever sold as long as it took me to get there. I wanted to hit a 500,000. That was kind of the mentality. And again, back in 23, that was 850K.
Mm.
Or back in 2003, that was 850K today. I mean, that was the number that I felt like we've got a really good shot. Now we can go out and hire a door-to-door team next summer, and we can afford them. We don't have to take on debt. The only debt we ever carried was our trucks, our
Mm.
vehicles. That was it, because I wasn't getting commission. I was an owner, and my partner wasn't getting, getting paid. We were just getting paid kind of a draw, on the company. And we put money in. So those first few months, we didn't get paid anything. We each put a few $1,000 in to kind of get things rolling. Best investment I ever made, by the way. But I think as a business owner, to go back to your question, as a business owner, you have to decide what you want this to be and how you're willing to get there. Because I was willing, after a time, like I was willing to answer phones. I was willing to go at 4 in the morning and do routing. I was willing, if my business partner needed me to, and I think I had to do it like twice, but if I had to hop on a truck and go spray a few things, and I'd do it. I hated it. I'd rather go knock on doors and sell, but I would
Yeah.
do it. And if we, both of us had that mentality where we're going to do whatever it takes to make this thing work. And so
Mm.
I think even with your partnership, Danny, it was kind of like you had some people on one side of the boat rowing
Yeah.
really fast, and the other side of the boat was kind of rowing, but not really, like, we can do that. And it's like that never works because you're going to spin circles. And
Mm.
so as a business owner, you have to decide first and foremost that you are going to be willing to sacrifice time from your family and from hobbies and from things you love to do. Like I used to golf. I haven't golfed now for a decade. And
Wow.
I hated it, and it just took too much time. I lost my focus on what I was good at doing and helping my business grow. But you have to make some short-term sacrifices for long-term success. I mean, that's as cliche as it sounds. It's
Mm.
real. And so I think the first thing is, how do you get to 7 million? You have to be locked in and willing to do whatever it takes to get there. That's the most important thing. Everything else, you could pile up the most effective systems for pest control owners that have used for years. It's not going to matter if you're not willing to do what it takes.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, cool. So do whatever it takes, and that's kind of the mentality of, it seems like, you and a lot of the most successful people in this space. Is there like any other clear traits you've seen in other people that are just like killing it in this space?
Um, I mean, for the most part, here's an interesting thought, and this goes back to kind of your business too, Danny. I look at some of the most successful companies that I'm around and involved with, and I actually feel like a lot of times they're technology companies, and that they're fronting as a plumbing company or an
Hmm.
HVAC company or a garage door company or whatever, right? Like it's the weirdest thing. But I get into these companies, and they're sending me, logins and create an account for 5 different,
Uh-huh.
pieces of technology. And I'm like, dang, like I just want to sell. I just want to teach you guys how
Mm.
to go knock doors and sell. But it's like, no, this tracks that, this does that. And it's like, I think part of this is having people around you, whether it's you, your partners, whether you have to hire it out. you have to keep up with the times from a technology standpoint
Mm.
just to make sure you're capitalized. Like, I don't want anything to do with SEO. You know, we hire that out. I
Yeah.
don't we used to. And I used to write all the articles, and I'm a broadcast, I'm a communications guy. I love writing. We used to do all that. But at some point we realized to get to this next level, I can't write all of our own stuff. We've got to
Mhm.
find somebody who does copywriting. We've got to find other people that are going to help us to maximize our potential because they're taking some of those things over. So I think just being really aware of technology. I mean, from the door to door world, there's just some cool technology pieces. Like I affiliate with like Sales Rabbit for a canvassing app, or Zero. That's an app that can record everything that happens on the doors. I don't have to go out with any of my reps anymore if I didn't want to, because I can just have them record all their conversations and I
Mm.
can coach them up on the recordings. And that
Mhm.
just saves me flights and hotels and car
Yeah.
rentals and all the
Uh-huh.
business of traveling. So there's just so much that technology has to offer that I think if you're not maximizing what there is out there in that space or in those spaces, I think you're doing yourself a disservice, and it's gonna prohibit you from growing where you could potentially be.
Mm. Yeah, is there any other tech software that people need to be using in the pest control space?
So we use a company called Snowball for our online reputation. When you have door to door, there's two sides of this. You have a lot of door to door reps out. When you go talk to people and maybe your name's not familiar to them, one of the first things they'll do, I mean, I've had people literally on the door and they're like, okay, what's the name of your company? And they're Googling it, right? And they're like, okay,
Mm.
let me check you out. What are you? Oh, you're a 3-star? Forget that. I'm
Yeah.
not talking to you anymore, right? That's not my company. My
Yeah.
company's like 4.8, 4.9s all across the board. But so we have this company called Snowball, and it's like they do all of our reputation management, and they help us with
Mm.
referrals, and they help us with our reputation online. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we felt like if we could hire somebody to do that, we could stay in our lane and focus on customer satisfaction, making sure it's an epic experience for all of our customers, for our internal customers, right? Our employees. We want to make sure we're taking care of those fronts. Anything that detracts us from that and that starts to pull away from those most important things, we're going to find somebody to help us out with something like that. And that's okay. Because like I said, you might think, well, I can't afford that. Sometimes you can't afford not to really make sure you're staying where your strengths are and hiring out, again, just like picking a business partner, right? Hire for your weaknesses, and it's the same kind of thing with the tech space.
Cool. And I'm curious, what CRM do you guys use? Do you guys use Field Routes or something else?
Yeah, we use field routes, sales routes and
Okay.
that's really the reason we used them. I mean, my COO went through all of this. I mean, I'm familiar with so many CRMs right now and
Hmm.
canvassing apps and that. I've used probably all of them because I've been with all these different companies that have them to whatever extent. So my COO picked field routes just because he felt like from the pest control daily operations side, it was sufficient. And
Yeah.
then you add on sales routes, so now it's sufficient for our door-to-door program. So rather than trying to have two, we just have the one system, and that's what we're using.
Cool, man. Good to know. And last question I've got for you because we're running out of time here. Where do you see the future of door to door? So we talked about it a little bit that you see that there's going to be many more reps, but I mean, do you think people, because I think at least during COVID, I mean, you could touch on this a little bit, that I mean, people were probably a little bit more skeptical of door to door, and at least in my perspective, but I don't know much about door to door, that people are not liking door to door as much. It seems like people are more individualistic and like, hey, I'm just gonna like order some DoorDash, leave it at the door. Like, I don't even want to like look at you. So where do you see it going? And like, do you see that there's ever a problem with this kind of like face to face interaction and dealing with the sales head on?
Yeah, no, I love the question. So two of our most profitable and highest revenue generating door to door sales summers were COVID and were the housing crisis. That
No way. What?
100%. And this is why I love pest control, because, well, number one, I thought COVID was like, I know, and I had some buddies of mine that were like, oh, we're going to back off, it's COVID and we're not going to do it. And
Mm,
it depends on where you were too. Like, were you in a red state, a
mm,
blue state, or where
mm-hmm.
were you operating, and what was the government letting you do or not letting you do? I mean, pest control was essential, which is great, but that just meant
Yeah.
we could service customers. Could we actually go canvas and that kind of thing? But yeah, it was one of our biggest summers, and it was because everybody was home, so they were answering the door, not just
Dang.
after 5 o'clock. And we just talked to homeowners all the time. It was like literally It was like a kid in a candy store saying you can get whatever you want. Like that's what I felt
Wow.
like the COVID year was for us. And so again, a credit to the pest control industry and just a credit to get in front of more people that were sitting around their house, and so they were probably noticing bugs more, right? It was
Mm.
like the perfect blend. So not that I'm calling for another pandemic by any stretch, but at the same time, it was a really great year for us. I write about this. I'm not gonna blow all of it here, Danny, for everybody, because I write about the future of door to door in my second book in More Door to
Mm.
Door Millionaire. So actually,
Cool.
I think my last chapter is really focused on that. But you kind of have an idea where I'm going with this. If the curve is more and more people are hiring and doing door to door, I mean, you can kind of see where it's going. You can beat them or join them, or you can just kind of take a back seat and let it all happen to you. That's kind of where I feel like it's at, which that's fine. If people, that's what they want to do. And, like I said, there's a lot of defensive strategies for door to door teams, but I'd be on the side of looking for ways to make it work for my business, because it's not going to ease up, I guess is the point.
Okay, cool. Also, another thing I wanted to mention is you have two books launching, fairly soon. I don't know exactly when. Can you talk about those at all? What are they about?
Yeah, so it really dialed in on how to do door to door in the pest control industry specifically. So
Mm.
my door to door millionaire books are very, generalized in terms of, any type of business, a fintech company, yeah, any kind of home service company, even a lot of B2B companies, insurance companies use it. I know that some of the clients that I've had in the insurance space. So those are great. That you can't. I mean, there's a few books out there about door to door, nothing like these, because they're
Mm.
all like experience systems, processes. They're like real, and they're exactly what you say. Like you could build your whole scripts out for your phone sale team. Just
Mhm.
reading these books. They're so unique in that way from anyone else. So, but the two new books are going to be specifically diving in the pest control industry on my sales flow process, and then also my techniques that I use. So other things besides just what you say, but how you do it, how you do pest control sales door to door.
And what's the difference between the two books then?
The two new books, it's going to be more what's the process, like what do you say when they open their door to when you're leaving with the signed agreement, like really just hammering that in. And they're going to be more concise. They're going to be less like bookish and more just like, this is exactly how you do it. And they're going to be under a certain amount of time. Like it's going to be like a quick read that's going to get you the knowledge you need to go succeed like on the doors today. But then the technique one is more of like, how do you manage your time? What's the best area management techniques to have? How do you maintain life balance when you're out knocking doors? How do you deal
Mhm.
with competition, whether it's direct competition, indirect competition? So the second book's more technique oriented. The first book is going to be more like what you say to people when they open the door.
Okay, cool. And when can people expect those to come out? I'm sure people in the audience want to read.
Yeah, I'd say early 25. They're done. Like I will tell you, I'm done writing them.
Mm.
But I need to send them over to copy editors. I need to get
Okay.
all the ISBN numbers. I need to get the covers of the darn things done, like all
Yeah,
the,
yeah.
the junk stuff, like they're written. Like I could
Okay.
put them out there today, but yeah, we just got to get all the other stuff done to make sure they're just perfect. But they will be.
Okay.
They're going to be great.
Awesome. All right, well, I think that's a good place to end. I think that was a great podcast. I personally learned a ton. Again, I didn't know too much about door to door. I'm, pretty much all involved in the digital marketing space. So this was a kind of a cool refresher and a kind of good to see on the other side of marketing where again, I'm all digital, but there's still a huge potential for door to door. And I still totally encourage pest control companies in particular to not put all your eggs in one basket. Like I think you should still experiment and like I was saying earlier, test with everything. Try out offline marketing. Try commercials. Try flyers. Try door to door. Whatever it is. Keep trying things and see what's working. Like don't just do something because me or Lenny says it. So yeah. So yeah, Lenny, thank you so much for coming on. And where can people find you on social media and learn more about you?
So my website's the best place, lennygray.com. So I would go there. I've got links to all my social, my email address, lenny at d2dmillionaire.com. But yeah, you go to my website, you got everything and more that you'd ever want.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Lenny. Again, learned so much. And yeah, thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. Good luck.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate you.